Hey guys, this is Gatsby with Tape, and today you join me for episode 13 of Fall of Kerbin, and we start in Osiris Bay, mounting an invasion with some wiggly tanks. Yes, Burn Together is still having trouble with my tanks. I think it's a wheel problem. I'm going to try and set up the wheels better, and I kind of do today a little bit. But yeah, basically, in Penguin's last turn, he struck back and took Osiris Bay. But not for long. We have 5 M3 Minotaur light tanks, and we're going to move in and take this back with extreme force. However, I do have to move the tanks one by one, which is somewhat annoying, but yeah, it's fine. So anyway, I've rounded this corner, and yeah, so we're going to bring up the rest of the column of tanks, just so I can have some guys behind me if, shit hits the fan. And yeah, so anyway, we round this corner and there is something down there. Luckily, it is just a 37mm thing, basically a mobile gun. It's not armored, but it does have a fairly big fast-firing gun. Luckily, we managed to get some shots on it and take it out quickly, but not before flipping round and being shot in the back a bit. There's minor armor damage, but as we start driving, you can see that the armor damage is actually a little worse than it looked. It's just pretty much hanging on. Yeah, you can see that was my first control issue of the day. There will be a few as I kind of figure out how to do these wheels. Anyway, after bringing up the column of tanks onto this street, we inspect the damage of this mobile gun, and it's nice and destroyed. However, when we round the corner, there's a light tank waiting for us, an SM2 Mamba. It gets a couple of shots, but luckily we back away just before it kills us, but we back onto a curb, a deadly curb, which buggers those wheels pretty badly. So I managed to twirl it onto the road, but it can only move in circles now, so I'm going to have to push it forward with another tank. The tank commander of the damaged tank isn't super happy, but we're going to use him as cannon fodder while we hopefully rush round and shoot the enemy tank. However, I push this round the corner, and it's pretty much instantly killed, and my control on these wheels is so bad that I don't get to shoot before it's just gone. So that's not great. What I need to do is turn off the motors and steering on the middle 2 wheels. Actually, no, have steering on the front 2 wheels and motors on the back 2 wheels. I figured that out. But anyway, right now, we're going to rush through this debris, open fire, and luckily, we get pretty much all of our shots on target, while most of its shots go over our head, and the tank is undamaged. So that was pretty lucky after the kind of just clusterfuck of the last tank. Anyway, we move the tanks up again. You can see we've brought the column forward. We're checking these side streets, and there's nothing down them, luckily. So I'm going to park up just here, bring some more tanks forward, and advance through the city. We're going to try and be a little more careful. We've set up the wheels a little better now, so that there won't be too many more control issues, sort of. But yeah, anyway, we've brought up some tanks, and it turns out just around this corner was another tank. It is the final SM2 Mamba. So anyway, we rush round, we get a couple of shots that miss, and then we hit a wall, and then the enemy tank turns away, and then we get a couple of shots through the side. So this time, control issues actually helped me out. However, I did bugger the front wheels hitting that curb. So yes, we've destroyed both of the light tanks now. There is just anti-air to take out. So yeah, that last kill felt a little scummy, but it wasn't really my fault. But yeah, so now we're just looking for 3 20mm emplacements and a 3-inch gun. The 20mm emplacements have no armor, but do have some pretty deadly guns, but probably nothing too bad for a tank. Anyway, after advancing this tank all the way up the street and making a left, we find ourselves the 3-inch gun, and we quickly open fire. Luckily, its first shot misses, and there's no armor to stop our 20mm ripping it apart. So there we go, that's nice. Now we just have the 20mm emplacements to take down. Luckily, this was a pretty lightly defended city. We have another tank searching kind of back where we were before, but it kind of hits a dead end. And we could drive over there, but there's deadly curbs. So anyway, we switch back to this tank and start hunting through the northern part of the city, although actually I think it's western part, basically the top of the city. We're going to go top and bottom, the bottom where I came in, and yeah, anyway, so we round this corner, and there's a 20mm emplacement waiting for me. I put a couple of shots into it, and it dies, but not before it takes out a panel of armor, just protecting the cockpit, which is a little worrying, but luckily nothing too major. Anyway, we pass that, and then we roll down this street, and it turns out at the other end there is also another 20mm emplacement, which we managed to kill pretty quickly, but again, not before it gets a single hit onto us, which rips out pretty much the rest of our side armor, which isn't great, because now we have a pretty exposed hole in the side of the tank. But still, overall going pretty well, and when we arrive at the final one, after searching for ages, we put some shots in, it doesn't get a single shot on us, and we have won. So yes, for the cost of one tank, we've managed to slaughter our enemies here, surprisingly effectively, better than I thought it would go actually, but we did have numbers on them. Anyway, so we place the tanks defensively, we have 4, which should be pretty useful. We're filming it secretly, so Penguin doesn't know where they are, and we're also going to spend some supply units to put down some anti-aircraft guns, because Penguin managed to bomb out most of our tanks last time, and that's how he took the city so easily. So, we're going to spend 1 supply unit repairing the city for £3,000 worth of bombs worth of damage to almost full health. I'm going to spend 1 putting out this 3-inch gun, which should be able to shoot down things at long range, and we're going to put down 3 20mm emplacements to shoot out anything trying to dive bombers, which should be pretty effective. Anyway, over at Penguin's carrier, we get to see his pelicans scramble because there is an eagle in their midst. Yes, they take off the carrier because my eagle is coming in to drop some bombs on the carrier. It looks as if those pelicans have gotten pretty far pretty quickly, but it's actually because I have to launch them. A little bit of continuity error there. But yes, we dropped 5 1,000-pound bombs, only high explosives, but our plan here is to take out that carrier, because in the upcoming naval battle for Osiris Fortress, we do not want them to have the advantage of an aircraft carrier. Anyway, pretty soon the attackers are hot on my tail, and they're preparing to open up. But luckily, our 30 calibers are trying to, plink away at them. It looks like the enemy ships are firing at their own fighters, but they're actually firing at the bombs. Luckily, almost all of the bombs hit the carrier pretty good. I was kind of hoping it would do a lot of damage and maybe even sink it, but these are not armor-piercing bombs. They are only a high explosive bomb, so when we look at the damage, it's not massive. You can see that we've taken out a lot of the runway and blasted some holes in the deck, but the carrier is very much still alive. However, it doesn't have its weapon manager, so it can't shoot at us. Anyway, while trying to escape from the fighters, from the attackers actually, we run into some problems, some glitchy problems. As you can see here, I'm flying straight, and then for some reason my controls lock up, and this sends itself into a dive. I've had this problem a few times actually. My controls seem to just lock up and I have no control for a while. And just before this hits the ground, I have the good sense to turn on some unbreakable joints cheats so that I could maybe just reset and carry this bit on. Unfortunately, Penguin's planes also follow me and hit the ground. And then we also face another weird glitch with his final plane like this. So what we're going to do is just let Penguin have his planes and let me have my bomber. And he's going to need those planes because there is there's another plane in his midst, a Valkyrie. Anyway, one of his planes managed to get over this hump, but the other one destroys its engine and falls into the gap. And then the third attacker clips the plane and smashes into the deck. That may have been slightly my fault, so we'll probably let Penguin keep that. But anyway, yes, we have a Valkyrie coming in to drop a bomb, a 1,600-pound armor-piercing bomb, to hopefully finish off this carrier. Luckily, Penguin only has 1 Pelican up in the air, because the other 2 sort of couldn't take off over the hole in the deck. But yes, anyway, so what I'm going to do is dive bomb, because that's the only really way to get it's only good way to get a really accurate shot unless you're dropping loads of bombs. So we're going to brave the anti-aircraft fire, which you can see is rolling in right now. Some pretty intense gunfire. I think those might be 6-inch shells from one of Penguin's light cruisers. Anyway, we stick with the dive and drop the bomb just 2 kilometers away and try and escape, but unfortunately Penguin's anti-aircraft cruisers open up with their 30mm shells and start tearing me apart. I tried to do some sick rolls to get out of this, but sadly apparently that isn't an actual evasive maneuver and the plane explodes, which is a bit of a shame. And when the bomb hits, we just see the aftermath, and I think what happened is it hit the water kind of inside the hole and didn't destroy the carrier. And Penguin has supply units here, so he can repair this carrier. So our mission so far has failed. The bomber did pretty much superficial damage, and the armor-piercing bomb did did nothing, actually. So yes. Anyway, on my carrier, we have more ships to bomb. So we're sending out one of our P-7B Pelicans, which I need to change the name of because they're the same name as Penguins. And it takes off rather beautifully off of the ramp. We're just sending out 1 today because we kind of want to test the waters here. So we're going to fly over to his southern carrier group where we can see his planes taking off. The attacker gets away fine, however the fighters seem to have a little more trouble taking off. They sort of just flop into the water. I think Penguin may have set the takeoff velocity too high or just not had powerful enough engines, and I even try and help this one a little bit because I was feeling kind of bad, but it doesn't do much. Anyway, the Pelican will hopefully be trying to bomb out one of these cruisers so that we can have some advantage if we come to have a proper slugging match in the south, because that tends to be how big naval battles are resolved in Fall of Kerbin. So I'm going to try and bomb out one of his heavy cruisers so that we can have some nice advantages in the south. You can see that I'm going into a decent dive, and we're going to try and drop this bomb right through the deck because it is a 1,600 pound armor piercing bomb. I would have brought all three, but I kind of just want to test the waters, and I was pretty sure I'd lose all of the fighters, or all of the attackers, if I brought them all, because they'd be flying around while I was trying to bomb. Anyway, we managed to drop the bomb, but very quickly after, one of the light cruisers manages to rip us apart with some 6-inch shells. And the bomb hits, but it hits armor plating, not deck plating, so it doesn't do any damage. I even checked the cheats to make sure I haven't left something on for some reason. It does a little bit of like heating to the internals, but nothing major, which is a massive shame because now we are still kind of on even ground naval-wise. Anyway, I do actually manage to. What we'd usually do is just use Vessel Mover to put the carrier fighters back on the enemy's carrier, but I wanted to leave this clipping because I managed to land a fighter on this tiny little carrier. I do actually get a little bit of an assist from clipping the wing, but still, I landed a plane on a carrier. I wanted to leave that in. Anyway, so what we've decided to do is form up our navy. We've sent down a new cruiser, a Scimitar. The others are World War I cruisers, so they have a little bit of a firing disadvantage in terms of firepower, but now they have a Scimitar. We're pretty much evenly matched if we are to have a naval battle in the south, because we have 4 cruisers and a frigate and an aircraft carrier. The aircraft carrier has actually got a new attacker on it. It's got a Valkyrie because we lost that one just then, so I've launched that. And the nice thing about having a land-based fighter on a carrier is it means we can attack the land, because there's some pretty strong limitations on planes on carriers that are launched with the carrier, but basically that's just a normal plane on there, the Valkyrie, and it can do pretty much whatever it wants. It's just like having a mobile forward operating base. So yes, hopefully we won't lose our navy in the south, because we have some pretty serious force here. Anyway, back in the south, well, staying in the south, this is Penguin's forward operating base in on the southern island chain, and we've brought up our tanks. We've brought up an M3 Minotaur and a C2 Centaur, which we launched a couple of turns ago. That's a medium tank and a light tank, and they're quite well defended by 3 20mm emplacements and 3 of my new planes. These are S11 Buzzard interceptors. They've got all of the advantages. They're incredibly quick to take off. They're quite maneuverable, and they're using 2 20mm Hispano cannons, which are actually some of the 20 mils that were going to be used on some of the Spitfires, except they jammed up a lot, but not in this. So you can see that they're actually pretty compact, they have pretty small wings, and they have a very powerful engine. Not quite as powerful as the one Penguin uses on his interceptor, but it's powerful nonetheless, and a little more efficient. So yeah, I saw the kind of usefulness of Penguin's interceptors. They're very effective, so we decided in Cathenia that we needed some too. So we threw some together, and these are incredibly effective planes. So if Penguin tries to come and bomb out these tanks, he's going to have some serious trouble. So you can see, yes, we've got an M2 Minotaur, which we saw some earlier, taking over the city, and yeah. So he won't really be able to dive bomb because of all of the emplacements, and he won't be able to get close because we've got a radar station up there, which will tell the interceptors instantly when he enters load range, and they'll be able to take off and just lay waste to anything he launches at us. And we've got our Centaur here looking rather deadly, ready to invade Kruolan. And as our final move this turn, we're deploying another Scimitar class to Osiris Bay, because we failed to take out the carrier. Now I think in terms of firepower, in an out-and-out slugging match, we would totally win if Penguin tries to invade. He has 4 modern cruisers, which can fire at 10-kilometer range, and 3 old cruisers, which can only fire at 5-kilometer range, which gives him probably, I've estimated, at least 4 minutes in which he won't be able to fire with the most of his navy. And against I think 5 cruisers and a frigate and 2 coastal emplacements with massive guns. Well, one of them with massive guns, one of them with an 8-inch. He'd be ripped apart before he even gets close. So I'm pretty sure as long as his carrier attack doesn't go too effectively, we've got Osiris in the bag. But anyway, this is the end of the video. It's been a bit of a shorter one because we did some pretty good attacks. We had some good success. We took back the city. It's just our naval bombings didn't go super well. But anyway, if you want to go check out a couple more videos, there is my latest episode of Prison Architect, in which a virus outbreak takes place and it's horrible. And there's also my latest episode of Road to Exploration, in which we finally use an SSTO. But yeah, there's also links to my Twitter, Twitch, and Patreon in the description if you're interested. But as always, I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been KSP with Tape. I'll see you next time.